Hey guys, welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, for being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. Boy, when I tell you I heard this story, I said I had to make a video on this and share my thoughts and get yours, because it is not a shock to me that this guy is just pretty much a fraud. I'm just going to say it like that. In my eyes, he is a fraud. He is an opportunist. He is someone that is on the MAGA train because it's beneficial to him financially and it uplevels his lifestyle. But he's said a number of problematic things. And the reason why I'm talking about him again is because when I recently talked about him and this statement that he made, which was absolutely ridiculous, talking about black marriages being stronger during Jim Crow. And when I did my commentary about it, there were a number of people that were like, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said. He was talking about, families and black families being a unit and being stronger during that time period. I don't have an issue with someone speaking about black families and them being stronger during a certain year or years or whatever, but tying it into Jim Crow was a huge problem for me. And two, the fact that he is not even married to a black woman, but he's talking about black families, is a problem for me. And while some people said, well, he's a black man, so his children are black, his children are biracial. I know that in the eyes of some people, especially people that don't really like people that look like him, they see black kids. I get that. But if their mother is a different ethnicity, the children are not black. They're biracial. And he did not create a black family, so he really shouldn't be speaking on them. That's my thoughts. That's how I feel about it. So to hear now that his ex-wife has come out, not because anyone's forced her out to speak anything negative against him, she's just speaking the truth about him, I find it as not a huge shock, and that's why I'm talking about it. So Bisa Hall, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but she did an interview, and she said that she feels like what he's doing is super dangerous. She met him as a fellow Florida A&M University freshman on campus in '96. She believed the future congressman and Donald Trump vice presidential shortlister was from another country. He told me he was from Jamaica and he had a Jamaican accent, and he was cute. Then the next time I saw him, the Jamaican accent was gone, and he said he was from New York. She said Byron, who was then 18, explained why he'd initially deceived her. He felt like it would make him stand out. And he was right. There were a ton of guys from New York around, but there weren't any guys from Jamaica. He was right. It got him noticed. The chameleon-like patois role-playing certainly won her attention. Hall wound up marrying him, and that first encounter has special resonance as she watches her ex-husband's political career go places that would have seemed unimaginable during those early days. An opportunistic person like he is will take whatever opportunity they're given. She said, he was always driven to get what he didn't have. He was trying to fill a void and get what he didn't have. The 45-year-old Donalds has stood out his entire political career, initially as one of very few black Tea Party Republicans in a sea of almost exclusively white faces, and today as a top surrogate for the Trump campaign and the MAGA movement. Now, a stalwart of the Christian right, he was neither religious nor political during the 8 years of their on-again, off-again relationship. She said, though he did register to vote in Tallahassee as a Democrat. We never talked once about how we were going to go and vote. It wasn't a thing. To see him now out there saying, I'm a conservative black man, And I'm like, since when? He wasn't talking about politics at all. To see him now, it's like, when did this happen? Upon first being contacted by the Trident last year when she made the brunt of her statements, she reluctantly agreed to speak on the record, in part, she said, because she strongly objects to Donald's service to Trump, a politician whom she's disliked since well before the January 6th insurrection, civil fraud, and assault on women court rulings, multiple criminal indictments, and most recent guilty verdicts of 34 felony counts. She said, I have big reactions to that man. I don't think he's a good human. If it's not even political, I just think he's a bad person. The congressman who represents parts of Southwest Florida and is considered a frontrunner to be Florida's next governor. What the hell are they doing down in Florida? They got this crazy man, DeSantis, and now he's a contender? Absolutely insane. But anyway, has never been more enveloped in Trump's orbit than he is right now. In addition to appearing on Trump's VP list, Donalds visited the former president during his most recent trial in Manhattan, introduced him at a black church in Detroit, handled post-debate spin room duties for the ex-president in Atlanta, and is conducting black voter outreach for Trump with his Congress Cognac and Cigars tour of cities. Child, please. Anyway, during the first event in Philadelphia, he immediately stirred up controversy when he implied black families were better off under the repressive laws of segregation than they are today.
I grew up with my mom. My dad and my mom, things didn't work out. As an adult, I look at my father and I say, bro, I don't know what happened, but you my father and I love you.
Wow.
I don't know what happened. I wasn't there.
Wow.
But I'm going to tell you this. Growing up, the one thing I knew I wanted to do, and this is not about my father, this is about what I wanted to do, is I wanted to be a father to myself.
Wow.
And so one of the things that's actually happening in our culture, which you're now starting to see in our politics, is the reinvigoration of black families with younger black men and black women. And that is also helping to breed the revival of a black middle class in America. You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together.
That's right.
During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are. What's happened in America the last 10 years, and I say it because it's my contemporaries, it's Wesley's contemporaries, you're starting to see more black people be married in homes, raising kids. It's when you home with your wife raising your kids, and then you look at the world, you're saying, now wait a minute, time out. This does not look right. How can I get something to my kids? It goes back to the conversation of generational wealth. Not just having a job, generational wealth.
To see Trump and Byron in collusion together, it was like, if he were a good human, would this very bad person be pushing him as a poster child? She asked rhetorically. They're both very opportunistic. You trot him out there and it makes some people feel better about Trump. I think what he's doing is super dangerous, and I think morally he and I have no crossover at all. So basically what she's saying is she knows that Trump is using him as the black face to get the blacks to be on board with him, to vote for him. And he knows, meaning Byron knows, that he's being used, but he really doesn't care because it's beneficial for him financially. Bisa provides rare insight into Donald's college years, and her memories at times slightly differ from the congressman's account, particularly regarding his criminal charges for marijuana possession with intent to distribute and bribery, as well as his dramatic conversion to evangelical Christianity. Hall, however, made it clear to the Trident she didn't believe Donald's past scrapes with the law should be considered disqualifying. I'm not a fan of his, but to be fair, we all enter those phases of our lives where we make some bad choices. He made some bad choices. I could see why he would want these things expunged. I don't think the Byron I knew had any idea he would become the guy he is right now. A detailed request for comment was emailed to Donald's congressional office with a follow-up, and the congressman who ran into some controversy last year regarding the actions and criminal history of one of his top aides had yet to respond to the inquiry as of press time. After their first meeting on the Tallahassee campus, Hall and Donalds fell for each other. She, a sheltered and solidly middle-class girl who grew up the only black girl in a white neighborhood, and he from an impoverished upbringing in the Crown Heights neighborhood of Brooklyn, raised by a single mom. We had so much fun together. At that time, he was the greatest thing ever. He didn't have anything to give me. His family wasn't well off, but he was my first love. They quickly moved in with each other and became engaged. He was rough around the edges, and there's a polish there now that wasn't there before. He would talk about how he grew up in a bad neighborhood and talk about how his family was poor. He had charm, but it was street charm. What he lacked was money. The shininess of your relationship kind of falls off after a while. You realize that person stinks sometimes and isn't always awesome. You don't like to pay all the bills. He was always complaining about how he didn't have any money. The cash shortfall led to a serious problem. Donald started selling weed. We had this neighbor who sold drugs and they got close. Byron thought that was his path to fix his money situation. He was making bad choices. It never made sense to me why he did it. I had a level of concern. I had to worry, what if he got arrested? In late 98, just days short of his 19th birthday, it happened. He was arrested for marijuana possession with intent to distribute. A pre-trial diversion program kept him from serving any jail time in the case. Donalds has claimed on multiple occasions that the arrest involved only possession, contradicting both the listed charge and Hall's remembrance. At around the same time, the living arrangement and engagement ended, but the pair kept a close friendship and on and off again relationship. Then in December of 99, Hall faced a crisis when her scholarship ran out and she could no longer afford out-of-state tuition. We didn't get married for a romantic reason, she said. I had a residency issue. The easiest way to fix that was to get married to a Florida resident, and he was. So we got married. So she's admitting that they did something, they got married, and it wasn't for love, and it wasn't illegal because it's not like she was someone who was not a citizen of the United States and you're marrying someone just so they could have citizenship to be, a U.S. citizen or get a visa or green card. She was in a relationship with him. There was no real love there. It was just mainly like a business arrangement. So she's admitting that. So because she's admitting these things, I don't believe that anything that she's saying about him is a lie. I don't believe that this is a plant. I don't believe that this is someone that's trying to destroy his reputation because he may have a chance of being the VP nominee, which is not going to happen. Let's just be clear with that. But I digress. I don't believe that she's lying about anything that she's saying about him because she's admitting something that really is not a good look. At the time, when they got married, which was June 15th, 99, they didn't move back in together. While their personal relationship remained intermittent, the marriage would last 3.5 years. I thought maybe we should be released from this marriage. Maybe we should get divorced. And he would say, no, I don't want to lose my wife. I thought maybe he's playing the long game here. Donalds, he transferred from FAMU to Florida State University and was arrested again, this time on a felony bribery charge. He pleaded no contest and the charge was later expunged, leaving the details of the case unavailable except for Donald's own explanation, which he provided to a Southwest Florida television station after their arrest was revealed in 2014. He says, 15 years ago, I came into contact with a girl. She offered me $1,000 for my debit card and my PIN number, and I gave it to her. Apparently, he said this in an interview referring to a bank fraud scheme. I never got the $1,000, but I had to make restitution to the bank in excess of $7,000. Hall recalled that Donalds described it differently to her at the time. The way he explained it to me was that he had a job at the campus bookstore when he was at Florida State, and he had gotten caught stealing something from the bookstore, and then it was something along the lines of, "We're going to have to let you go." Then he told the bookstore, "I'll give it all back, and I'll give you money if you don't say anything." Whatever the case, Donalds again was given a break by the justice system, resolving the case with no jail time or serious consequences. He's characterized the criminal charges as youthful mistakes and has said finding evangelical Christianity helped him get on the right path. He told a crowd at a Faith and Freedom Coalition event that while he was waiting tables at a Cracker Barrel in Tallahassee, a woman he didn't know approached him and told him the Lord was calling him. He later served a table of 12 Christian women who were coming from a revival. And as they're getting on their little bus, "The Lord told me, you need to go see these ladies," he told the crowd. Oh, hold up. And pause for a moment. And I might be making a little bit of fun here, but listen, I like to laugh, and hopefully you do too. So he didn't have a relationship with God or Jesus or anything before then, and he was working at Cracker Barrel, bussing tables. And this little woman, this little Christian woman, came up to him and said that the Lord is calling you, and then immediately you heard God's voice to say, "Go over to the bus." Whatever. Anyway, he says, "I go over to the bus and I catch that last lady. She goes, 'Young man, are you okay?' And I said, 'Ma'am, the Lord told me to stop running.' She goes, 'Ooh, child, come on, sisters. Come on, sisters. We're going to pray over this young man right now.' And I gave my life to Christ on that day." Okay. He said the life-changing event happened in the summer of 2001, a year and a half before he and Hall divorced. She said they were still in each other's lives at the time, and she remembered him working at the Cracker Barrel, down to the brown apron with his name tag on it, but he never mentioned to her anything about joining the church. He wasn't religious at all, she said. He was not a church person. It was not important to him. It didn't exist. So at some point, she became aware that Donalds was dating a Florida State University student named Erica Lees, who hailed from the relatively upscale coastal city of Naples in southwest Florida. While Hall knew about Erica, she said Erica had no idea that Hall was Donald's wife. He told her I was a friend and that I would pet sit their cat. So they brought the cat over, and that's how I found out I was allergic to cats. The relationship was serious, but Hall says sometime around Christmas 2002, Donalds came to her with a startling proposition. He wanted to rekindle their relationship. He said, "Erica and I have split up, and I want to give it another chance. I want my wife back." But a very short time later, after he made a trip to Naples, Donalds did another sharp U-turn, telling Hall they needed to divorce as soon as possible. Long story short, turned out Erica was pregnant, and they had to hurry up and get married. So basically, they had a shotgun wedding. All right? She got knocked up, Erica, by Byron. Erica's family brought out the shotgun and said, "You're going to make this legal and make her an honest woman or else." And so he could not be a bigamist, so he had to get divorced. So despite the fact that she'd asked him for a divorce before, the news blindsided her. He said, "We have to petition to get our divorce expedited." And then he invites me to the wedding. I thought it was gross. Donalds also asked her to pay all the fees for the divorce, which she said she did with the agreement, with the thought, with the word that he'd pay her back when he could afford it. It was the last transaction of what she described as a largely transactional marriage. We've been divorced for 20 years, and he still hasn't paid me back. 2 decades later, she's left with a largely negative view of her first love. I don't find him considerate. I don't find him genuine. In all these years since, you've changed the nature of your character. Despite those feelings, she commends her ex-husband's decision to take responsibility for his child, especially after his own father was largely a no-show in his life. Listen, his daddy was a black man. he got a, I don't know, she's Caucasian, Asian, whatever, I don't know. But he didn't get a black woman pregnant. And that girl's family, now woman, said, yeah, this is going to be a marriage. This isn't going to be somebody's baby mama. She's going to be somebody's wife. And so he had no choice but to do it. And so I don't feel that him marrying that woman who he's still with to this day was him being a stand-up, honorable guy. It was something in that field that he was forced to do. She says being a good father was important to him. He said he didn't have a great dad, so he was going to be a good dad. He wanted to be a present dad. I respected his commitment to doing the right thing where that kid was concerned. Donalds married Erica on March 15th, 2003, and their first of 3 children together was born that August. The wedding to Erica led to what seemed a fast change in fortune for him. When he left Tallahassee, he had nothing. Less than a year later, he's living in a giant house, again supplied by his wife's family. Both Donalds and his new wife worked in finance. He as a bank credit analyst. I'm quite sure his family helped to get him that job. Because again, it's not even about him. It's what's in the best interest of their child, their daughter. She for a New York investment management firm. Things also changed politically for Donalds. Just a month after the wedding, he changed his registration to the Republican Party. I never talked about politics, but during my career, I got passionate about it because of the financial collapse in 2008. Donald said during a 2023 interview, I got into politics. He jumped headlong into the right-wing Tea Party movement, which was virulently opposed to the country's first black president, Barack Obama. Donalds, who was then in his early 30s, began speaking at Tea Party rallies, playing to the older and almost exclusively white crowds with hardcore conservative messaging. At a rally in 2010, he gave a speech on the back of a truck with a sign reading, "No taxation with Marxist representation." For decades now, we conservatives have been mostly quiet, while the left has been organizing and protesting in the name of social justice and equal outcomes that have left us with quadrillion-dollar deficits. Donalds decried social programs that have assisted poor families like those in his own Crown Heights neighborhood back in Brooklyn. Again, a sellout. For the past 80 years, the left has been giving us deals and benefits. The New Deal, the Great Society, prescription drugs, stimulus packages, bailouts, and healthcare reform. Each of these deals comes with we, the people, turning over more of our liberty and private property to the left in return for so-called security. And he addressed the wider perception about the crowd. The elites, they call you racist, said Donalds. But this election is not about blacks and whites. This election is about the future of our nation. Yeah, same thing. A run for Congress in 2012 was unsuccessful, but after a stint in the Florida House of Reps, he won his current congressional seat after he ran as an acolyte of then President Trump in 2020. So again, an opportunist. Rode on Trump's coattails to get to where he is. So he's pretty much staying in his place so that he can stay in his place, if you get my drift. Today, I'm everything the fake news media tells you doesn't exist. A strong, Trump-supporting, gun-owning, liberty-loving, pro-life, politically incorrect black man. Trump returned the favor, dubbing Donalds a rising star in the Republican Party, essentially making him MAGA royalty. During his time in Congress, Donalds has repeatedly been criticized as a prop for Trump, whose personal history includes excluding blacks from family-owned housing developments in New York, very publicly attacking the later exonerated Central Park Five, aggressively pushing the false birther conspiracy theory alleging Obama was born outside of the United States, and calling some of the white supremacists at a Charlottesville protest very fine people, among other statements widely perceived as racial dog whistles aimed at the predominantly white and rural MAGA movement. His wife is into politics on the school board level. And while Byron passed legislation in the Florida House to expand public funding for charter schools, Erica has made a lucrative career of managing them. She served as an advisory board member for the book-banning Christian conservative group Moms for Liberty, and, like her husband, has been publicly praised by Trump, adding speculation she could serve as his education secretary should he be elected, according to a recent report in the New York Times about the couple's involvement in for-profit education. She's certainly been a staunch defender of her husband, especially on matters of race. They can't accept that a free-thinking black man achieves success on his own merits, Erica tweeted last year. And they sure as heck can't stand that he's married to me. Cry harder, haters. Girl, get out of here. Nobody wants your husband, and your husband is a sellout, and it was because of your family that he got to where he is, and now, because of Trump, he's gotten the likes of other people besides myself even knowing he exists. So Bisa, his ex-wife, she said that while recognizing the same opportunism on the political stage as she did that first time she met him nearly 3 decades ago when he lied about being Jamaican and faked a patois accent, said she couldn't find a positive in her ex-husband's alliance with Trump and the MAGA movement. She says, I don't know. I just don't think any of this is good at all. So listen, in my personal opinion, I felt like he was disgusting. One, talking about how black families were stronger during Jim Crow. One. And then 2, he's not even married to a black woman, so he did not create a black family. I don't care how much anyone wants to say, well, he's a black man, so the family that he creates is black. It's not true. It's not. Yeah, there are going to be some people that when they look at his kids, all they're going to see is a little you know what, but his children are biracial, and that's that. And while I don't have an issue with someone that chooses to, fall in love and be in a relationship with someone that may not look like them, I don't feel that you really have the authority to speak on marriages. To me, it's no different than these black guys who get on these podcasts to bash black women and talk about how terrible they are, but you're not even trying to date them. You're not even trying to be in a relationship with them. So why even talk about them? And to talk about black marriages being stronger under an oppressive rule of law is very dangerous. But see, he's an opportunist, so he doesn't really care. The things that he says and does, he's not looking for approval from people that look like him, unless they're sellouts just like he is. So I found it interesting to see this article and hear what his ex-wife had to say, but none of it is shocking to me. Just look at him. Sellout, to the core. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section, guys. Thanks so much for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.